Hello, everyone, and welcome to this ESCI Educational Service Centers of Indiana Partnership Highlight. And we're really excited to be here with Carter Fig and Tyler Overstreet from Newsela. And with this, we are just really quickly responding to the DOE's digital learning grant that was just released. And we are fortunate through ESCFI, Educational Service Centers of Indiana, to have made a partnership with Newsela, and that brings special member pricing to schools who are members of one of the 9 educational service centers in Indiana. And the good news is most Indiana schools are a member of an educational service center. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Tyler and Carter, as you're the best folks to share your solution.
Awesome. Thanks, Christy. Hi, everyone. My name is Carter Fig. I am the Director of Partnerships here at Newsela. It's rare that I get to serve so big part of a state that I live in. I live down here in Bloomington. I'm a former social studies teacher here in the area. So something that kind of stays near and dear to me. So we're excited to kind of share how we fit this digital learning grant this year, and excited to kind of partner with you. There's a lot of things that we'll kind of lean into. Some of the biggest ones are student engagement, obviously, and instructional strategies and practices. So building that teacher capacity for online learning and blended learning environments is really where we stay, right? And we play in that environment really well. And a lot of districts, I think we're actually at 100% of districts in Indiana have some sort of Newsela usage. We're going to share with you today a little bit more about what those premium resources look like, and how you can take advantage in using this grant to really kick that online and digital instruction up a notch. With that, specifically speaking, as I focus on the partnerships, you can reach out to me at the email address there, firstname.lastname@newsela.com. But when it comes to more of that curricular planning and mapping, one of our biggest values is when you do engage in a more premium partnership with Newsela, with us, you get the resources of curriculum alignment and embedding our resources into your curriculum and your scope and sequences and your curriculum maps. And people at Newsela that do that are folks like Tyler. So we're really lucky to have Tyler, former educator as well. So I'll let Tyler introduce himself, and then he's going to take us on a little journey here into what Newsela could look like for you guys if you choose to utilize us with this grant.
Hey everybody, and thanks for that introduction, Carter. So my name is Tyler Overstreet. I am a curricular solution architect here at Newsela. My email is listed right there. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. But really my role at Newsela is to engage customers around how Newsela might work in their classrooms. What does it look like? Does it make sense for them? How can we address different challenges or gaps or curricular needs that they're facing within their districts? So my goal really is to have a great conversation around, Newsela, your curriculum goals, and how we can really make it work. I'm going to be walking you through, what is Newsela today, some background information, what we've been up to lately, and then kind of the thought process behind it, how we actually curate and create our resources here on the platform. If you have any questions as we go through this, feel free to either reach out to Carter and I. There's also the comment feature that's available. But let's go ahead and start diving into the resource here. So a little background about Newsela. We're an instructional content platform. And what that means is we're not just simply a content resource bank. It's not just, here's a bunch of articles, go in as a teacher, find an individual article and go plan on your own. What instructional content means is we actually curate our resources from over 180 different partnerships from around the world. If you're ever curious about who those partnerships are, I always like to point this out. It's at the very bottom of the page. We're very transparent about who those partners are. You can go in, you can see exactly who we're partnering with and what type of information that we're pulling. But once we have that information, we bring over their content to our site and we make it classroom ready. And that classroom readiness really falls into a couple buckets. It means that we're thinking about accessibility into content. How will kids get this information? We'll explore that here in just a little bit of how we actually go about making content accessible. We also think about engagement. We know how important that is. So not just here is an article. We have over 16 and almost 17,000 articles in the platform. We don't just say, here's an article, go forth and be well. It's here are lesson ideas and activities and different ways that you can engage students. And then the final kind of piece is how can kids express what they've learned? So here are activities and different pathways for kids to really show how they're understanding their learning. It really falls under the that idea of UDL. So how can we design our product intentionally to increase engagement and remove friction and stop points throughout the learning process for students? So with that being said, let's actually dive into an article here and start exploring what is actual Newsela. So I'm going to go to one of our current event articles today, looking at Russia invading Ukraine. One of the things that you'll notice is this an article that just came out this week. Newsela is a live site, so every single day we're updating our content to make sure that teachers have the most relevant resources readily available when they walk into class. So we'll have all different types of content, from current event pieces to primary sources, fiction, poetry, explainer articles, really a wide range of resources. We're adding in videos and other additional multimedia resources. So really a lot of different types of content to engage with your students. As I scroll through this article, what I want to point out a couple different features here. In the top right, as we talk about making learning accessible for students, every article on our platform comes at 5 different reading levels. So you'll notice up here, it'll say max all the way down to 610. Kind of zoom in there a little bit. This is also available in Spanish. So once again, going along with accessibility, there'll be 5 levels of Spanish available within this article. But let me switch back here to English real quick and go to the original version. So if I was looking at this article at the max level, that means this article was written originally at the 12th grade level. It comes to us from USA Today, and as I kind of scroll through this text, you can tell that it looks like a high school reading. So the complexity, the structure, the vocabulary. The power of Newsela is being able to take this 12th grade article that was written by USA Today and being able to adapt it all the way down to the 610 level here, which drops it to the 3rd grade. All of our articles will range from grades 2 through 12, really the top half of 1st grade all the way through 12th grade. This article's lowest level is now 3rd grade. And what you'll notice is as I adapted that level, the structure and complexity of the article adapted. Now it's written at a 3rd grade level, but what doesn't change is the actual content within the article. So for example, if I was a student that was reading at 2nd grade and Carter was reading at the 12th grade and we were in a high school current events course, we could still both read this article, engage in the content, the concepts, the ideas, and still, show our learning and understanding of this resource, and not so much a reflection of our reading levels, but more so of our content knowledge and our concept understanding. So that's really the magic of Newsela. It's why people come to us, is because that differentiation that we provide right there with every text. But we don't stop there at Newsela. We want to make this as accessible for both teachers and students as possible. To help with that leveling process, in the activities, we build in a writing prompt and a quiz for every article. The quiz is just a quick 4-question formative check for understanding. How well are your kids understanding those literacy concepts as they're working through a text? What we do from this information, though, when we collect it, is help identify your students' reading levels. So as kids take about 3 to 5 article quizzes, we'll identify your students' reading level. And from there, when teachers go to hit assign, we automatically will differentiate the text for them. So they don't have to go in and say, okay, I know Tyler's at 2nd grade and Carter's at 12. We'll automatically identify those levels and send the article out at the level it's available for those students. What's also nice about that is kids are exploring the platform and looking at articles on their own. So for example, we're not just academic content. We have great articles around, Roblox or Minecraft or music and art. When kids open up any article in the platform, it will automatically level to the ones closest to their reading level too. So that seamless integration of accessibility right there built into the platform. We also are going to have writing prompts. These are going to be adaptable for teachers to edit, go in, add in their own information here. The tool, my favorite tool that we have built into this is right here within each text. Students and teachers can go in and highlight any piece of text and add in a color here and add in their own thoughts and questions right there within the text. As we're kind of thinking about, making learning accessible and engaging kids into content, this tool is really beneficial in the sense that teachers can really scaffold out the learning process for students. So thinking about, what questions might a 3rd grade text for a high school student need to look like? What resources do I need to provide? Maybe it's coming over here in the annotations and I'm going to add in a video or another additional resource to help kind of understand the process, or I'm identifying vocabulary words as I'm moving throughout. And then what I can do is I can actually adapt this to that top level again, and you'll notice the annotations don't go with it. So as we're thinking about personalizing learning, thinking about questions we're going to ask at the 12th grade level, or maybe I want Carter, who was at the 12th grade level, to dive in and annotate on his own. Students can go in and easily annotate the resource and really start having a conversation with the text right there within the platform. So really a really nice accessibility tool that's built in, allows to really personalize the experience as kids go through the article. And then just some additional pieces on top of that. We do have a read aloud. It's readily available. We have the ability to print. We know that some kids are going to want that physical copy of a text right there in front of them. And then we also have an app that's downloadable on any platform that will work offline for students too. So if kids are going home, they don't have access to the internet, if they have the app on their phone, it'll automatically download to school. They can disconnect, go home, work on their assignment, come back to school, and it'll automatically download for them. I'm going to pause here for just a second as we're kind of thinking about the anatomy of an article. So any article I go into will have this structure, this layout. It's going to be accessible through a wide range of LMSs. So something to point out there: single sign-on, Clever, Canvas, Schoology, ClassLink, just to name a few. Google Classroom's another one. Single sign-on, teachers can roster. So the ability to get into these articles, really easy for teachers. But let me pause here. Carter, are there any questions or thoughts we want to go before we kind of move on to the next section?
Yeah, I think one comment, tying this into the grant specifically, I know that first bullet point is can be taken lightly, but when you think about what it's asking for and what Newsela can support, is that little term high quality, right? Like blended learning and online learning can go in a lot of different ways. For us, it's that high quality instruction, no matter where you're at, in the classroom, at home, offline mode, as Tyler just mentioned, how our app can be utilized for kids that may not have Wi-Fi access right now. They can still use the app as long as they have a device. So all those things that we're kind of walking through continue to show that big piece, not just instruction, not just online, not just blended, but high quality, no matter what that environment looks like. And we'll kind of continue down those routes. And I know one of them, addressing student data affected, especially the students, mostly affected from COVID-19 closures and issues. We'll dig into the data a little bit on that. So good foreshadowing there. We'll touch on that in a second, but that's, I think, it so far, Tyler.
And thinking about that vetted component, as there's more and more media out there, and there's more and more resources that teachers can turn to. What's nice about Newsela is all the content that we have goes through a vetting process from editorial teams at the Associated Press or National Geographic. And then they also go through additional layer of vetting that goes through our Newsela editorial team. So there's multiple layers to ensure that the content that we're putting in front of students is both reliable, it's accurate, it's up to date, and it's ready for classroom use. So you don't have to worry about if it's an article from Newsela, it's going to be ready to go for the classroom.
And the big thing, aligned to the Indiana state standards. That's the last piece of that vettedness. We want to ensure that as teachers go out and find resources to use digitally online blended environments, can we ensure that those resources are still aligned to the state standards, aligned to our scope and sequences, aligned to our curriculum maps that we're spending all these times building? This is where you can kind of align that piece and ensure teachers are getting access, and then students are seeing and learning from areas that are specifically aligned to those state standards.
As this is loading here, what Carter and I are now going to explore are the new subject products that we have. So some of you might be used to the free version of Newsela. Free version of Newsela is great. It has current event pieces on there, one-off articles. But what people don't quite realize is, one, how to say Newsela, which is pronounced Newsela. They think it's news, ELA. So they think we only have current events or we only have ELA-based resources. Over the past couple of years, we've actually built out ELA, science, social studies, and social emotional learning collections to support teachers in a multitude of content areas. I'm going to explore ELA a little bit just to kind of give you an idea of what that instructionalized piece looks like. But everything I talk about within this product is also transferable to the other one. So, as I talk about novel studies here in ELA. In social studies, we can look at inquiry modules, or science looking at STEM activities. So it's really going to vary by the content area of what you would expect to see, but the structure and layout are going to remain the same for teachers no matter which product that they're in. And it's also going to look the same for students too. I think that's always important to point out as we're talking about accessibility and how can kids get to content is click for click. Almost every button is going to be the same with the Newsela. We really make sure that you're never the teacher standing in front saying, all right, class, go ahead and click this button. They're like, where does this exist? Click for click, Newsela is going to be about the exact same for teachers and students. All right, so this is really where our instructionalization piece is going to come in. So we do have the individual articles where you can go in, the basic features of annotation, quiz, write prompt. This is where we're going to start adding in lesson resources. So really thinking about engagement, really thinking about how will kids express and show us what they know, what they've learned. You'll notice on the left-hand side over here, there's going to be different collections. So for example, standards and skills, novels and book studies, themes and genres, fiction, primary sources, really everything you would expect to see in an ELA classroom. As I scroll through, you're going to see a wide range of resources available. And something that you'll also notice is just the diverse perspectives that you're going to see from around the world. That's something we do a really good job here at Newsela, is making sure that we have perspectives and diverse opinions from throughout, like I said, throughout the world, from different backgrounds, different cultural pieces, to make sure that students can see themselves in the articles that they're reading, but also see new experiences in different cultures throughout the world. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go into one of these collections here. I'm going to go into the one called Reading Skills Nonfiction for Elementary Readers. This comes from our Review Standards and Skills collection. This has been one of our most popular collections over the past couple of years with the pandemic, as we think about, learning loss, accelerated learning, whatever we want to call it, thinking about how do we support kids with foundational literacy skills, those priority literacy standards and components like that. This collection is great for it because what we've done is we've curated elementary and secondary nonfiction and fiction collections built out around those literacy anchor skills. So for example, if I go into Reading Skills Nonfiction for Elementary Readers, this collection is really great for that tier 1 instruction where maybe I'm introducing a skill for the first time over here on the left hand. So maybe it's making inferences or analyzing word choice. But it's also really great for that tier 2 support. So maybe I have a few kids, and we'll show you here in a second what that data looks like. Some kids are struggling with making inferences. I can pull that group and really pull an article from this making inferences collection to help support those kids in that tier 2 level. So I'm going to go into one of these. So for example, making inferences. And what you'll notice is a wide range of articles as it's loading here. For a wide range of different topics and ideas and thoughts, really designed to engage students in just building those skills. So every article they go into here will have a quiz designed around making inferences. And then over here on the right-hand side, you'll notice resources that are built out. So here are some teaching strategies that go along with this, so you might engage students around. Throughout the platform, you'll notice different types of lesson sparks. And the idea behind lesson sparks are they're an idea. It might not be a fully built out lesson. It might just be, here's an organizer, here's some reading activities. But these are really going to vary depending on what collection in. If you're in our science courses, you're going to see fully built out taking action projects. If you're in social studies and the inquiries, you're going to see fully built out summative resources for the inquiry modules. It just really varies by which collection. The idea behind that is we never want Newsela just to be, here's an article, read it, let's move on to the next piece. It's how can we engage kids in different manners, in different ways throughout the platform. So you're going to see a wide range of lesson resources to support teachers. And on top of it, just trying to make it easier for teachers. I mean, it's one of our biggest feedbacks that we always hear is teachers are spending too much time going out, sourcing resources, pulling from different places and building out activities. If we can cut down on the amount of time by sourcing the articles, by having the activities ready to go, having the data piece ready for teachers so they can do what they do best, engaging kids in the classroom and walking them through and learning, that's really our goal here at Newsela. So let me kind of backtrack a little bit here. As I mentioned, ELA, social studies, and science are all going to have the same structure and layout. They're going to have their own unique collections. So I'm pulling up social studies right now. You'll notice things like social studies news. You'll notice fully built out courses for US history, world history, government, econ, financial literacy, fully built out inquiries, DBQs, and projects. And then in science, you'll notice also very similar structure and layout, but resources related to science. So fully built out elementary, middle, and high school courses, STEM-based activities, partnerships with VET and Tuva Labs to help bring some interactive participation into the classroom. So like I said, wide range of resources. A lot of it's built around the engagement piece. How do we vary engagement for students? And then how do we provide students with different ways of showing how they understand content? I'll pause here before we kind of dive into the last section, that data piece that Carter hyped up a few minutes ago that I'm sure everyone's just dying to see. But let's pause here for a second. Carter?
Yep, I think the last thing was just on showing those reading skills and that skills development. So using data to showcase where those skills go once a student might utilize Newsela. What can a teacher do to show maybe their whole class or a whole grade level as to what specific skills and how are those students performing on those skills?
All right, so let's wrap up some data then. So something about Newsela's data is it's all live data. So every time a kid takes a quiz, a writing prompt, does an annotation, we have that information ready to go as it happens. So you will have a live assignment feed within Newsela where you can go in, look at your assignments as they're happening in live time. So if a kid isn't logged in, let's say, or hasn't completed the quiz, you'll see all that information readily available along with article levels, quiz scores, writing scores. Did they create annotations? One of our favorite ones is the time on article for that engagement piece. Gives you a pretty good idea. Are kids taking their time? Are they actually engaging in the text? So this daily grader, this assignment piece, you can go in and grade each one of these students. Really quick and easy. Never have to worry about losing an assignment or paper. It's all right here digitally for you. We then take that data and we compile it into our reading summary page. And this is where you're going to get that overall data. So you'll be able to go in and say, okay, Kendra reading at the 2.8 reading level. You'll see how many articles Kendra has viewed, how much time spent on articles, quiz scores, writing scores, annotation, all the data compiled from all the information that we've gathered from the assignments. And then on top of that, we also provide a reading skills readout. So that collection that I was in earlier, that reading skills, I can easily go in and say, okay, main idea. I can see who's struggling with the skills within my class. So for example, Kendra, Peter, and Donna, maybe I go back to that collection. I find an article that's really a high engagement piece and I reteach finding the main idea and components like that. This is, like I said, just provides you a quick overview. But if I want to drill down to that even further, I can go into Kendra's individual binder here. And it's going to load me an individual report. So I'll be able to see the reading level over time, that initial data that I showed you, and also the reading skill breakdown for this individual student. So how well Kendra is performing in performing arts, what articles she's read, what levels she's read all the articles at. If Kendra is in multiple classes, is one of my favorite parts of this binder. So let's say, ELA, a social studies and science class, I could see all the classes for the student in this view. Really nice part of that is if maybe she's doing really, really well with main idea questions when science articles, I can talk to that science teacher and have a conversation around how are you teaching main idea in science? What are some transferable skills in my ELA classroom that I could work with Kendra? And then we also provide an independent reading report too. So you can go in and see what your kids are interested in, what they're engaging in independently throughout the platform. So lots of different data options really to provide that informed instruction. Something I always like to point out this piece is if you've used the free version, you don't have access to any of this data. So anything I just showed you from the assignments to this individual report to the reading levels, you won't actually be able to see that in the Newsela free version. You'll just have those individual articles that you'll be able to print out and hand out to kids. This part's part of that premium product piece. And as you can see, it really helps you get really descriptive as you're thinking about, where are my kids at? What do they need? Where do I need to go from here? What roadways, what blockages might there be as we go through. Newsela really is intentional about how we design that and thinking about those friction points and those engagement pieces. All right, that's a lot of me talking, Carter. Wrapping up here, 55 after. What do we got?
Perfect. No, your soothing voice, I think, ensured all our folks watching everything they needed to know. And that was the last one, I think, was around what's the difference if our district already uses the free version? What are we not getting? What Tyler shows right here with the data, the individual student and class data. The free version does not give you any feedback on student performance or individual student performance. So that premium version gives you access to 16,000 more articles and lesson plans, curricular alignment, state standards, and the data. So there's a lot that you're missing out on. And then I know we did create this kind of alignment document here as Tyler's pulling up now. And I think that is it on my end.
Yep. So let me go ahead and I'll share this document in the comments if anybody wants to grab that link. But within this resource that we created, just kind of talks about our presentation today, how we think about, personalizing learning, our content philosophy, some of our accessibility pieces, and then most importantly, down here in the bottom right, you will have demo access to our full platform. So you can go in, play around with the different resources. This will give you access all the way through the end of March if you want to explore a little bit. So we can add this comment in here in just a second, or we'll send it out after the presentation to anyone that's interested too. So that's all I have today, Carter.
Awesome. Thanks, Tyler. We appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much for being here with us today. We love the solution. And I know for me, I remember, gosh, back at the early 2000s, I think it was 2002, I was a biology teacher asked to do a session with my fellow teachers on reading in the content areas, and thinking, my goodness, if we would have just had this, it would have been so much easier. And I also love, if you think about the inquiry models or even Bybie's 5E model, where, where's that real world problem that can be brought to life in these articles, or what's happening today, as you were showing things that are happening today that I'm seeing in my inbox for sure, and some newsletters and springboard from there. So great opportunity, and love that the Digital Learning Grant is here and can help support that solution, and that through our ESCFI partnership, our member districts can get that excellent pricing available to them. So thank you for sharing this with us today. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Christy. Appreciate you guys having us.